Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for this next topic of discussion, the psychological impacts of hair loss and the realities of concerning treatment alternatives. Please, round of applause.
Welcome everyone. What I want to do is just introduce this amazing panel that we've got here. So myself, Ashleigh, Marchbank, I'm the Business Development Manager for Exo-Grow by DermapenWorld. Beside me I have Andrew Hansford, who's the Global Education Ambassador, also for Exo-Grow by DermapenWorld. And then I'm joined by these amazing individuals over here. So we've got Chaddy Masangi for one-to-one, and also Gregory here with his studios in Liverpool and London, both of them regal gentlemen. So without further ado, what I want to do is pass over to Andrew, and we're going to talk all things psychological when it comes to hair loss.
Thank you, Ashleigh. That's an enormous subject, as I'm sure you're all aware, and we've only got 20 minutes, which is outrageous for me. It takes me that long to introduce myself. So, but what we're doing is this is an incredibly important thing for me. So, coming from a more clinical background, I've worked with this for many years, and it's been, let's get honest, attempted suicide. We've seen people catatonic in tears. We've had people who've not had sex in years because of finasteride. So, from a perspective of a clinical perspective, psychological and medical, is that the false hope, false promise within this industry is huge. More than any other indication I'm around. It's a cash cow, so it means that every product's got another zero on the end of it. No one's given the information to be able to explain to their clients what the concept is or the pathway is, when in actual fact it's quite an easy one. They don't want that to happen because they're not going to make the money on it. There's lots of indications, which I'm sure you're all aware of, like PRP, finasteride, minoxidil. They all have their place, of course, but is it in every patient? No. Is it in most patients? Absolutely not. You're giving them a false hope with those indications too, because if you come off of them, it falls outcome. So the basic synopsis, and the cleanest one that makes sense is, when you've got hair, the body thinks it's normal. When you start to lose hair through androgenic alopecia, the body still thinks it's normal. So what that means is you have to do this for the rest of your life, which sounds like a terrifying concept, but it isn't. A clinical study that I haven't even shared with these guys yet came out a couple of weeks ago from Stanford that said that the average person spends upwards of £4,000 on products and basically rubbish before they seek medical help. So that's their TikTok products, their lotions, their potions, all of which we've all heard of. So we need to make sure that we can focus on giving the absolute truth without giving them a false hope of something that's already sending them into a mental downward spiral. But we also don't want to focus just on androgenic, because that is the cash cow, obviously that's where the money is. We want to focus also on the female side, which is then we get into the hormonal issues, there's weight loss drugs that are issues at the moment, all the different indications that don't technically need a medical intervention like exosomes, but what they do need is the intervention of honesty and doing that backstory, fighting a war and then doing the diagnosis. And you get through all of those things, you get to a point where actually this isn't that difficult. We can actually work with this because you're being honest, you're not giving them any false hope, and you're also giving them the end point, which is supported and possibility. So even if you get someone who, depending on their emotional psyche, if you say to them, look, you'll get 15-20% hair back, that doesn't sound like an awful lot, but to them, it's huge. So I'm not focusing on, I'll give you back. Who does that, right? How many times does it happen? I'll spend X amount of money on this and you'll get a full head of hair. No. Huge guy. So the fact I'm so grateful for these guys here is that, obviously, my world is education. And I can wax lyrical about everything that's inside the product and why it works. So I know, I'm putting that to one side because I know it does. But when the product was first created, my biggest thing, and it was a push for me as well, was to take it slightly away from medicine and give it to the people that are on the ground. And I was a hairdresser 2,000 years ago. Did the whole sassoons thing, where you were allowed to be here, to bring that back. I did all of that, but I didn't know anything about hair loss. With like 5 minutes, like do you think my hair's falling out? Well, no. You know, here's a bottle of shampoo behind the crack on. But you're the guys who are right at the coalface. So you're doing this every day. Hairdressing is the number one, way outside of medicine, including doctors, relationships, where you get your, the relationship between you and your client is huge. They'll wing a doctor, they'll wing something in Botox, but they won't when it comes, especially barbering. So I was so grateful that it started there, because it gives me a lot of support and backstory and evidence I can hold on to, because I can ask the questions. I can answer things, but I'm not on the ground, and that's not really fair on everybody. So that's why I'm going to shut up now. That's why you guys are so amazing. So we've also mentioned psychology already, and I know Chaddy has deep dived into that, haven't you, for lots of reasons,
Indeed.
And you can explain why. So to that, it makes me happy too. So he's already embracing the psychology of the patient prior to the treatment. So could you explain a little bit more, Chaddy?
Yes, I'm a psychologist by degree, the world's first ever barber psychologist, a barber therapist, if I have to say in ways. I think for me, what I've seen and what I've heard from men can be quite, not just daunting, but also heartbreaking, you know. I've had men break down in chair and tell me all sorts of deep, darkest truths of how they truly feel. You know, many avoiding the mirrors just because of the appearances change over time. You know, I think hair loss, what people don't understand, the psychological effect of it builds up over time. Because you think you're stressed, and you think the hair loss is due to stress. And that creates more stress. So now, you find yourself in a spiral of increased stress and increased hair loss. And often than not, like my colleague Andrew just said, after £4,000 of financial stress, of nothing working and a bunch of lies, you now find yourself in a crossroad where you have to seek for that medical help. And as we know, men don't often talk. And as a barber, we are that, you know, mental health first aiders, who they come and trust, who they come and talk to, and to have a space where I can have that safe haven for men to just come and just pour out what they need, and now to partner up with Exo-Grow to have a product where we can actually diagnose what the actual source of your issue is, and most importantly, give you truth. And for me, that's just above and beyond, because back in the industry, TikTok will feed you 10,000 algorithm of all sorts of lies, you know, fake AI pictures to show you how good it's been, but to have a product that's really tangibly giving real life evidence and making change, bringing smiles to clients. You know, I've had a client where we've had to go through bottles of enhancements, black spray, roots coverage, and now after 6 weeks of treatment, we're able to go low and he's happy with himself again. You know, to see that smile over time is it's absolutely priceless. I know we can all agree that the hair is the crown you wear every day. So to be able to aid somebody, you know, with something that's real, it's everything for me. That's to say.
That's amazing, thank you. And Dan, you've been doing hair loss for quite a long time, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of stuff on social media as well. So you've been, actually, you explain it, how long you've been doing this and kind of the results you're receiving?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's hard to follow on from Chaddy, really, isn't it? Yeah, that was amazing. That was incredible. So I started up a series called Talking Hair Loss, where it was a YouTube series of getting guys in to basically just let them tell me about their hair loss. And it was absolutely terrifying how young they all were. I don't think we had anyone over 40 for about two seasons, I think. And there was 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and because of social media, because everyone's got a phone, hair is such a big thing, you know, and a lot of the time you'd see it because somebody's took a photo of them and there's a light in a certain place. Like, no, these lights sit on here now. You know, if I was really suffering from hair loss, I wouldn't want to come up here because the lights would be showcasing, you know, some sort of thing. But it was incredible, the psychology of the person in the chair. And there's one particular video that we did, and I won't mention his name, but there was one particular video we did where he came in and he'd been combing it from the back all the way to the front. Now the problem is, we all know what he's trying to do. He's trying to cover up his hair loss. But he had a lot of density problems through here. It wasn't just the hairline, it was the crown, it was here, it was all over, right? And I looked at him and I just thought, my God, you are one handsome man. And I said, I really do think, if we shave this off, and I put a couple of enhancements through the top, a couple of little fibers through the top, and we frame the haircut to suit your face shape, it will be incredible. I guarantee you'll be incredible. Now, as hairdressers, barbers, we get a client like that every now and again. We just look at them and we go, do you know what? I know it'll work for you. Half the time we don't. We're working with the client or whatever. So I said, look, I think we'll do it. And he was terrified. Like he would be, on camera. He's obviously not wanting to do it. But I said, look, I promise you I know what to do. Shaved it off, a couple of fibres, explained, spoke to him off camera about his diet and what we could do to help his finish, really, and all these different things, see if there's anything we could do to help him feel better. And then when we'd done the haircut, we just sat there and we had to edit about 13 minutes of silence because he was just there with us going. And then he left, shook his hand, he looked at it, he left. And I just opened the doors for the toilet and he was crying on the stairs because of how happy he was. And that was a haircut. Imagine this sort of work. Imagine you could diagnose what's going on and then you've got a treatment that will help with this. And it's completely safe. There's no medication. No worries if you're going through cancer treatments and you've had cancer treatments. All the other things that cause hair loss. And again, I think it does come down, especially in our game, being hairdressers, barbers. It's a psychological effect that hair loss has. But it's terrifying now because the way we all are. I mean, I'm looking around now, camera, which we love, which we want. But when you're suffering like that, you don't want that at all. So again, like Chaddy was saying, you don't look in the mirror, you don't leave the house, you start, I've had issues where I will eat to make myself happy, but I feel horrendous for hours afterwards. And you just have a knock-on effect of something else that ends up happening. It can all stem from a little bit of hair loss. So with being in this for working with hair loss now for obviously a long time, 20 odd years, but focusing quite heavily on it, I opened a private studio in Liverpool, which is just me in there, and I get so many clients coming with hair loss. And a lot of the guys don't have a lot of hair loss, and that's one thing I'm noticing now. It's not actually a lot of hair loss. It's just so heavily kind of prioritised because of the world that we're in, with social media and cameras and everything else. But I think that element of talking, psychological, the fact that we can be their therapists to an extent, is incredible. And obviously teaming up with these guys now, I'm very new to this brand, but I'm currently working with my wife with it as well. We're able to use my model, shall we say. And in 3 weeks, we're starting to notice a difference. So, well, what more can you say? If we can get this across to hundreds of thousands of people in our game, that'd be amazing. So.
Well, thank you guys, it's amazing. And you're all spot on everything you're saying, and just to bring it back to a little bit boring medical talk, that when you've got something that works clinically, that you have the proof, you have the evidence, you don't have to sell it, because you're actually selling the indication and the end point, the end result. So if you're doing things like minoxidil, and I won't say anything negative about any of those that have their place, but when you're looking for particular ingredients, you can come and talk to us later if you want to know any more about it. But exosomes are the the fight. So anything that's wrong with us from a medical perspective, so this is medical first, by the way, so it will go in and fix rosacea or pigmentation, and also by association it will fix hair loss, because the cells will go to the point and go, well, that's not working, let's make it work. So unlike the other indications that are instant, stop doing it, this is regenerative. So when you've got regenerative medicine, it means long-term, it means support, it means permanence. But with hairs, there isn't a permanence, but you get a much longer pathway before it ends up going to the point where it falls out again. So you can do the treatment, like these guys are doing it in treatment, in clinic. So you have every 2 weeks they can come in, they can do the treatment, but they also do it at home. Like I said, it's the fact that you've got to do this forever. But the support part is you do it for a period of time, and then you go, oh, it's looking good. Leave off for a bit. I don't need to use it every day anymore. And for someone who's been on minoxidil that whole time, that's like, that's slightly worrying, right? Because they're so used to that, they don't have to. Like the Exo for the serum for the eyelashes, you have to stop using it because your eyelashes will hit your glasses, like the sunglasses. I mean, it's getting ridiculous, right? So, but we're not. This is again, it's not a sales thing. It's not a gimmick thing. Everything that comes from the world of medicine that ends up into the other incarnations like hair and beauty and aesthetics, it has 20 years of clinical study before it gets to us. So that's why I can put my name to it, and why I can stand and be proud and talk about it and be part of incredible people like this who are going to be ambassadors to help them support something they've already been doing, but just give them more tools to do the job better. And also, we're all, most of us are quite nice people, right? We don't want to lie. We don't want to put a bag full of products you send home with going, might work. You know, I don't want that. I can't do that clinically. I can't do that in any other way. So we now know that we have this. We have this useful range of product which is tiny that can support that patient's journey while they're with you and while they're out with you. And you've both been using it for a shortish period of time now. Are you seeing good results already?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's incredible. I've got, I think there's 14 clients so far who've either gone for hair transplants or are going for hair transplants. So I've got 2 of those guys lined up to work with to help support the hair transplant. As I said, I've been working with my wife as well. I've been working on my own beard as well because I don't have a very strong beard. I would like a much nicer beard, you know, a bit like Chaddy. So, yeah, I mean, so far, yeah. I mean, the one thing is, right, I think that if I'm completely honest as well, I know I'm covered in tattoos. Well, I thought microneedling was going to be really, really painful. I did. It's not. And I promise you this now to everyone out there, if I can take it, you guys can definitely take it. I can assure you on that one. But no, I've just, yeah, so far, as I said, we've been taking photos every other day with Danielle's hair, and you're starting to see, like, even in different lights, and even you're starting to notice as well. But she has been using the serum, the shampoo, and conditioner, the mask as well, 3 months when we met Ashleigh. She's doing it properly. And again, she's been noticing a difference, and I clock it as well. Every now and again, I'll look and I'll see a little bit of a certain light, and I'm like, hold on a minute, there's a little bit of baby hair going there. She's like, I know. Yeah, a little fluffy bit, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, like you said, you can't put your name to something you don't really fully believe in, do you? And we don't sell, we recommend, and that's what I recommend.
I agree. Definitely. Similarly as well, I think for me, my number one mission in the next 12 to 18 months is to start the trip to Turkey. You know, too many people are doing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trips, and unfortunately, you know, it's not sustainable, and most importantly as well, you know, the recovery process is a bit too long, and the issues that it comes with, you know, spending all that money, traveling all that far, and it's still not working, you know, it can create a much more down spiral effect on human beings, you know. And got 2 clients of mine I'm working with at the moment. They had trips planned, but they cancelled it, and they're seeing amazing results at the moment. But like we said, you know, we're not selling, just recommending. And I think the beautiful thing about it is as a psychologist, you know, to help somebody have a better view of themselves is incredible. And doing it for a fraction of what they could be spending elsewhere, and for a much more quicker result as well, it's just, it's priceless. Absolutely amazing.
It really is. We're done. I'm not happy at all. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thanks.
I can talk to you a bit more if you want to. What you would do in that situation is I just diagnostic on that one. I want to know what drugs you're on, the history behind it. If I'm going to be honest, yes. Because what we're doing is already natural. It's not replacing anything that's fake. We're basically allowing the except to go in and heal what has been broken. It's safe as well, so absolutely. But from my perspective, it'd just be nice to know a couple of bits and pieces, just because I can want to help you on a different path. But yes, absolutely.
This is the question I like to add. I think the difference and the reason why I attach my name to Exo-Grow is because, just by the way you've answered that question, you know, wanting to diagnose first, you know, to know from you before we recommend. And I think that's how we set ourselves apart from other brands in the industry. You You know, it's easy to click a few clicks on TikTok and fill up a form and spend thousands of pounds on the internet. To sit down with somebody who actually gets a deeper understanding of what you're going through it's already step one to receiving that help and making sure we recommend the right things. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone.